First timers, if it's your first time to Backyard Association meeting, please raise your hand.
Yay!
Please keep them raised. Volunteers are coming around with a packet from the Extension office that will give you a little more information on what Extension is all about and how they may can help you in your garden here at home. So thank you for coming. We do meet every month except the month of December, the second Tuesday of every month. And we welcome you tonight. Just a couple of announcements and we'll get started with our speaker. This Saturday, May the 16th, we're having Open Garden Day at the Inspiration Garden. That garden is just behind the horse arena on our main drive here. It's up on the hill. If you're driving in on the right, there will be volunteers there from 10 a.m. to 12 noon to walk you through and answer any questions about all the plants. It's a very diverse garden. It's a very, very beautiful garden. A lot of the plants, or several of the plants that are plant sale came from that garden. So we'd like to welcome you this Saturday, May the 16th, from Friday. Friday. Is that May the 16th? All right. This Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Also the McGuffey Nature Center, which is also just down below the horse arena. That has a paved trail through it. It's beautiful, full of mostly native plants. They're offering an opportunity to Master Gardeners are to support the McGuffey Nature Center by purchasing engraved bricks to honor loved ones, special friends, or to simply support the project. You may purchase a brick for a donation of $50. That deadline to order is May the 30th. If you have any questions, please contact the Extension office. Our next speaker next month is Eric Mack. That will be on Tuesday, June the 10th. Eric is a great plantsman and founder of the Kai Garden. His program will be Smart Strategies for Every Garden. And Eric will bring plants for purchase, and they are very unusual plants that he's cultivated or grown here there at his home garden. And I did text him today to see what forms of payment he accepts, and he pretty much accepts everything, including credit cards. So please come next month to hear Eric Mack and hopefully go home with a very cool plant that he's grown. Tonight's speaker, we have welcome Jennifer Petrus. We'll do door prizes after her program. Jennifer is a horticulturist with deep roots in the Atlanta area. She currently serves as president of the American Hydrangea Society and has served as a board member in various roles for 8 years. She has a previous career in public horticulture at the Atlanta Botanical Garden and the Atlanta History Center. Jennifer now puts those skills to use in her home garden where hydrangeas play a leading role. Welcome, Jennifer Petrus.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am thrilled to be here. This is the largest crowd I have ever spoken to, so I'm super excited about this. I was thinking on my drive down here today, when I was in high school in 10th grade, I took a public speaking class and I got a C in it. And I kind of wish my teacher, Mr. Frank Gannon, was here tonight so he could see me speaking in front of this many people. But I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. And hydrangeas are near and dear to my heart, and I'm so excited to talk to y'all about them. And I kind of designed this talk as sort of a back to basics. For those of you who are new gardeners, that hydrangeas are kind of new to your gardening, I wanted to give you a little bit of a kind of a background on them, and then hopefully some of you that are master gardeners, that are real pros, that have been growing for years and years, hopefully you'll get something out of it too, because I think there's a little something in here for everyone. Okay, if I can, maybe I have to, oh, there we go. Okay, so most of the time when I say the word hydrangea, what pops into people's minds is the big shrub with the big blue flowers. That's kind of what we think of when we think of hydrangeas. And that is Hydrangea macrophylla. I have a good friend who gives me a little bit of a ribbing. She says that I speak too much botanical. And because I don't use a lot of common names. But I always point out to her that, well, you say hydrangea all the time, and that's a botanical name. There's no common name for hydrangea. It's hydrangea, Hydrangea macrophylla. So those are the big blue ones, although they don't always have to be blue. Sometimes they're purple. This particular one is bloomstruck. This is a kind of newer to the market hydrangea that is known for being remontant. Remontant means it's a rebloomer. And rebloomer sounds like it just keeps on blooming over and over again, but what it really means is that if we get a late April freeze and your hydrangea buds get killed back, this one is going to set new buds and it will bloom. So a lot of our old heritage cultivars of hydrangeas, once those buds got zapped in the spring, that was kind of it for the year. We were like, oh well, maybe next year. But these bloomstrucks will rebloom. And there's a lot of reblooming hydrangeas on the market now. And I would suggest if you're a new gardener and hydrangeas are kind of a new thing for you, look for these rebloomers because your chances of success are much greater with some of these newer ones on the market, like bloomstruck. Your list that Melanie printed out is my list of, it's not necessarily a slide list for this talk, but it's a list of my favorite hydrangeas that have I've been growing in the Atlanta area for 30 years, and they're sort of my tried and true go-to plants that I recommend to fellow gardeners that are kind of workhorses. And they're a combination of old varieties and some new ones. It's like it sleeps. Okay, so like I said, they don't have to be blue. This is a newer one on the market, also a rebloomer called Summer Crush. And it is known for being kind of a pinky red color. This will turn kind of a pinky violet color if you have very acidic soil. But it is a good variety if you're looking for something other than blue or dark purple. It's a really good plant, compact. It's a smaller one, only gets to about 3 feet. Some Hydrangea macrophyllas can get quite large. This is one of the first rebloomers on the market. This is Endless Summer. There's been DNA testing on Endless Summer, and it turns out it's the exact same plant that we were growing as Penny Mac before Endless Summer came on the scene. So it's the same plant genetically, and you can kind of tell. I mean, those light blue flowers. But I prefer to call it Penny Mac because Penny Mac was the founder of the American Hydrangea Society. So I'm still calling it Penny Mac. It's a great light blue reblooming hydrangea. Okay. But you don't have to just do a macrophylla. These are Hydrangea arborescens, which is the smooth hydrangea. And the great thing about Hydrangea arborescens is that they bloom only on new wood. So it doesn't matter if we have hard freezes in the spring. It doesn't matter if a landscaper comes by with a weed eater and whacks them down to the ground. They're going to bloom no matter what. They will only be white or pink. The pink ones are pretty new to the market right now, and there's a bunch of them coming out, and they're a very pretty pale pink. But these do not come in blue. They're only in white, but there's a lot of newer ones. This particular one, I took this photograph at Mount Cuba. I was there a couple years ago, and Mount Cuba is a trial garden. They run native plant trials, and this is a native plant. Hydrangea arborescens is native to the southeast. And you see it sometimes if you do any hiking up in North Georgia or along the Blue Ridge Parkway, you'll see it along stream banks. You see not necessarily the mop head form of it, but a lace cap form. So it is a native plant, and Mount Cuba did a whole bunch of trials of this, and this one that is on the left is Incredible Blush, and they rated this one of the top pink ones in their study. The one on the right is Incredible, which is a newer, improved Annabelle version of Annabelle hydrangea that is bred for very sturdy stems that don't flop in rains. So both of those are great plants, Incredible and Invincible Blush. And like I said, this is what you are likely to see in the wild if you are doing hiking and you see them out in the wild. This is what they look like. It's a kind of a flat top lace cap flower. Those florets around these are the sterile florets. So they are the thing that attracts the pollinators. But all the fertile flowers are up in here. All of these little insignificant little lime green flowers, that's where all the nectar is. So that's where the bees are going. And you see that in all hydrangeas. If they're a lace cap, the bees will be around that center where the fertile flowers are. This was a garden that was on the American Hydrangea Society tour a couple years ago. It was down in Grant Park in a historic neighborhood, and those are Annabelle hydrangeas. So that is the old-fashioned Annabelle hydrangea. But they were absolutely beautiful that year. I mean, just really, and such a classic combination. I mean, boxwood and Annabelle hydrangeas, that's really all you need to have. That's really all you need. It's pretty incredible. All right. Okay, we're sleeping. There we go. Okay, and then there's panicle hydrangeas. These are the summer blooming hydrangeas. These normally start around July, and these are also our full sun hydrangeas. They are Limelight is probably the most famous one that you might know, which gets to be a very big tree. But panicle hydrangeas are great. They are full sun plants. So the arborescens types and the macrophylla types are part shade. This is Pinky Winky. This is a panicle hydrangea. You can see it's got a long panicle of flowers, almost like cone-shaped flowers. This also gets to be a big plant, and the flowers on Pinky Winky turn a beautiful dark red color. Now, they don't hold that color for very long in Georgia. They will wind up turning brown if we have a really hot, dry summer, which that's just about every summer, hot and dry. But they sure are pretty when they do that color change. And they're so easy. Panicle hydrangeas are one of the most forgiving of all the hydrangeas. They also bloom on new wood, so you prune them back in the spring. When they start to set buds, when you start to see little green buds up and down the stems, that is the time to prune them. You don't have to prune any hydrangea. If you don't want to, if you don't need to do it for size control, you don't have to prune them. But a lot of people do, and when you do that, you do wind up with more flowers. I don't know. It's like it kind of falls asleep on me. This is one panicle hydrangea that I really love. This is called Quickfire, and it's called Quickfire because it's one of the first panicle hydrangeas to bloom. It starts blooming in June in conjunction with the other hydrangeas, which is kind of nice. You get the taller panicle hydrangeas, and then you'll get the mop heads and the arborescens all at the same time. This is also a great pollinator plant. The day that I took this picture, that plant was absolutely buzzing. There were so many bees on it. It's also very recognizable in the landscape. It has dark red stems. And it's just a really pretty, lacy looking hydrangea. That one gets tall too. That is about 6 feet. So smaller than Limelight for sure, but also a sizable plant. Most panicle hydrangeas are pretty big, but they are doing a lot of breeding and making more compact ones now. And this is one called Baby Lace, which is much smaller. It's only about 3 feet. And it is one of my new favorites. It is covered with flowers, and they are very lacy looking flowers. It is also a great pollinator plant for the landscape. That's Baby Lace panicle. Click, click. Wow. Yeah, it's like... We're going to check the battery real quick because it's... Let's see. Oh, no, it's not the battery. Yeah, okay. I can do that. No, that's okay. All right, we did Baby Lace. Okay, so we're going to move on to oak leaf hydrangeas. Hydrangea quercifolia. Hydrangea quercifolia is also a native plant. Most of these are found in Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee. Oak leaf hydrangeas also have kind of a panicle-shaped bloom, kind of cone-shaped. This one, and they also have a lot of fertile florets on the inside. So again, those are the sterile florets on the outside. The fertile florets are inside. They are also very good pollinator plants. And I have noticed mine have started blooming in Atlanta right now. And for some reason, it's very variable year to year, but this year they are super fragrant, which is kind of interesting. This is probably my absolute favorite of the oak leaves. This is ruby slippers, and you can see where it gets its name because it's got the ruby colored flowers. It starts out white. The flowers start white, and then they kind of do this color change progression. I'm going to show you, well, I think I have a picture later on of that. But they start out white, and then they start to fade pink towards the end. Like it's kind of like they start to pink up at the end, and then they fade back. And it's just by mid-July, it is dark, dark red. Really good plant. Very compact. It's one of the smaller oak leaves. It's about 5 feet tall, which is pretty small for an oak leaf. They can get very large. This is one that I'm growing, and I'm about to take it out. It's called Harmony, and I bought it because it's got this really huge double flowered panicle. I've heard this called the sheep's head hydrangea, and it does actually kind of look like a sheep's head, but it has a very lax, kind of awkward habit. It's tall, and the flowers are really heavy, so they weigh down the branches. So it's one of my friends calls it a botanical interest only plant, bio. So let's talk a little bit about what hydrangeas like. How can we be successful with hydrangeas? Plant at the nursery, the garden center, you look at the tag and it will say part shade, evenly moist soil. And I swear I think they put that on every plant tag ever. But what does that mean? I mean, and we have to remember that these plants are not just being sold here, they're being sold in Virginia, in Oklahoma. I mean, they're being sold all over. So it's kind of generic advice. So it's really important to get your gardening advice. And this is true of all plants, not just hydrangeas, from people who are growing in your zone, growing in your area, from the Georgia Extension Office. It doesn't get better than that. So make sure you're getting your advice, local advice. And One thing that I tell people all the time when they're starting a garden is you got to really pay attention to the direction of the sun in your garden. You can use that compass on your phone to walk around your garden and see, you know, does your house face north? Does the sun come up on the, you know, over your driveway? Does it, you know, think about that when you're siting your plants. The macrophylla and the arborescens, they really like morning sun. Sometimes people think that they're shade plants and they'll put them in deep shade and then they'll say, why isn't my hydrangea blooming? Well, it's because all plants that are blooming do need a little bit of sun to bloom. And they really prefer morning sun. Oak leaves like that morning sun too. The panicle hydrangeas, like I said before, they are full sun plants, so they can take afternoon sun. Really till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. After 4 in the afternoon, they're kind of done. This is that ruby slippers hydrangea again, and you can see the color progression change on that. And then this is a really neat one that I saw in a garden that was on the tour. This one is called Wedding Ring, and I really don't know very much about it. I don't know how hardy it is, but boy, I was knocked out by that flower. Really pretty. That was Wedding Ring. Wedding Ring. This is another one of my favorite oak leaves. This is Snowflake. This is a double flowering oak leaf hydrangea. This was found at Aldridge Nursery in Alabama, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is a big plant. And if you plant it where it can kind of cascade, like over a wall, it is absolutely magnificent. Great, great plant. This is one of the ones that I put on your list. This is a newer cultivar called Corsage. It's a macrophylla hydrangea, but it's that lace cap flower, and it's a double lace cap. Really very floriferous. It blooms heavily. And the flowers stay very fresh for a long time, which is super nice. Corsage. This is a new arborescens that's coming on the market. It's pretty available now. This is Lime Ricky. It's part of that Invincible series, Lime Ricky. And it has like tiny little pink fertile flowers, and then the sterile flowers are white. It's interesting. This is a Annabelle that was in a garden that was on the tour. And just remember that nobody likes the western sun. So when you're thinking about where to put your hydrangeas, don't put them on the western side of your house where they're going to get cooked from 2 o'clock in the afternoon on, because they will not be happy. And as far as planting hydrangeas, this one is Twist and Shout. That's a lace cap hydrangea. I highly recommend Soil Cube. I feel so lucky that we live in Georgia where we have access to Soil Cube. It is great stuff. I don't fertilize my hydrangeas. I top dress them with Soil Cube. So that's me and my daughter getting ready to do some gardening. There's an arborescens behind us. Remember that hydrangea roots, if you pull a hydrangea up out of the ground, the roots are wide. They go like a pancake. They don't go deep. They go wide, and they really benefit from a planting area that has been enriched with some compost. That's a Pop Star that I planted in straight Soil Cube in a container, and it was, the Pop Star is another new hydrangea on the market that reblooms like nuts. I mean, you can cut those flowers off and it will have new flowers on it within a month. It's really great hydrangea, really good for containers. It stays very small. That's another, I think that's like a marketing picture of it. And watering, lots of questions about watering hydrangeas. Established hydrangea shrubs, ones that maybe you inherited some hydrangeas in your landscape and you want to know how to care for them. they need 1 to 2 inches of water per week, either from you or from Mother Nature. So that's for established hydrangeas. Remember that hydra is the Greek word for water, and macrophylla means big leaves. So hydrangeas are big-leaved water hogs. They like a lot of water. A lot of water, so you got to remember to hydrate your hydrangeas. And you can feel the soil with your hands to determine your watering needs. And remember that plants can also be overwatered. And the signs of this sometimes look like underwatering, but if you have wilting leaves and some of them are turning yellow and falling off, that is a sign of overwatering. So before you go back in with the hose, really feel around and see what your plants need before you just have run your irrigation system willy-nilly. This is a sign of an underwatered plant. Wilting, another good telltale sign of underwatering is you'll see the flowers will shrivel up. And I don't have a picture of it, but believe me when I tell you that I gave this plant a good soak, and in 24 hours it was perky and beautiful again. Even the flowers perked right back up. It was pretty impressive. This is the plant I'm taking out. This is my Harmony oak leaf hydrangea, and you can kind of see how it's like. Also, I didn't site it in the right spot. As you can see, this is the corner of my house, and there's a drain pipe coming down the side of the house. Well, all that water dumps out at the foot of this hydrangea, and it is not loving that. So it's too wet. That site is too wet for the hydrangea. So it's got to go. And that's, I'm going to cut it all the way down, and then I'm going to get out with my root slayer shovel, and I'm going to dig it up. So we talked about how established plants need 1 to 2 inches. Newer plants, especially plants that you plant this spring, need more, especially in extreme temperatures. Autumn in Georgia can be extremely dry, and a lot of people will water their plants through September, and then they think, oh, the cooler temperatures are coming, I don't need to water anymore. Yes, you do. You need to water through October and sometimes even into November if we don't get decent rain. A lot of plants, if they're not well watered going into winter, going into dormancy, that's it for them. They will not come back. So don't forget about fall. And then fertilizing, the Hydrangea Society gets a lot of questions from people wanting to know how to fertilize. And you would get mixed reactions on this from all the different board members, but I will say, don't do it. Don't fertilize your hydrangeas. I would be very careful about fertilizing anything in your landscape other than grass, honestly. Because if you think about it, the whole point of fertilization is to push new growth. And when are we pushing all that new growth? In late spring, as their plants are going into summer where it's going to be hot and dry. And what do we need to sustain all that new growth? More water, right? So I think you're better off improving your soil and making sure that there's good organic matter in your soil rather than just throwing some 10-10-10 out there. And like I said, I love to use Soil Cube. Everybody's, there's stuff at Home Depot, there's mushroom compost. You can use anything. You can use your own compost, which is great, but if you need a large amount, that's a good way to go. Pruning hydrangeas, we get lots of questions about how to prune hydrangeas, when to prune hydrangeas, and you don't have to do it. If you need to do it for size control, you want to prune any macrophyllas, like Endless Summer, like any of the big blue flowers. You want to do that by the end of July, really more towards the middle of July, honestly. So that they have time to set up flower buds for next year because they bloom on old wood. So, and So they bloom on the stems that they are forming now, all that new growth that they're putting on now, those are going to be your blooms next year. Yeah. And when you prune, you want to prune right above 2 leaves. Hydrangea leaves are opposite on a stem, so you want to prune right above those 2 leaves, wherever you want to cut it. And just remember that when we prune, and this goes for most any plant, that pruning is done for lots of reasons. It's done for size control, it's done to make a fuller, bushier plant. But when we prune a plant, the plant's reaction to being pruned is to send out more growth, like instantly almost. So just remember that. Panicle and arborescens hydrangeas, those in my landscape I definitely prune, and I do it in late winter. I like to do it around Valentine's Day because that's an easy day for me to remember. I just think, I love my garden. I'm gonna go give my garden some love. I'm gonna go do some pruning. You can do it really until about mid-April. And you can prune them hard if you want to. You can prune either of them all the way down to the ground and they will send out new growth, and those will bloom on that new growth instead of waiting a year. So I like to leave, especially for the arborescens types and things like limelight that have the big heavy blooms, I like to leave a little bit of a framework when I'm pruning so that there's something to support the weight of all those blooms. And it's always better to choose plants whose eventual size fits your space rather than constantly pruning to control the size. There's a hydrangea for any size garden, so don't make more work for yourself. Like, really investigate. And I would, with a lot of the older varieties of hydrangeas, I would add a couple feet to what they say is the eventual size. Some of the newer ones that are more compact, they're really bred to be compact. But a lot of times, like I have hydrangeas in my landscape that are 7 feet tall that we're supposed to top out at 4 and 5, you know. And I would encourage any of you to think. We have a garden tour coming up. The American Hydrangea Society does a garden tour on the second Saturday in June. It's June 14th this year. And if y'all feel like a field trip for a day, it's a wonderful tour. And this year's gardens are all in Atlanta proper, and they're all kind of in the same general area, so they're close together. And it's going to be a really good one. And oh.
You need to join the society.
When you buy a ticket for the tour, you automatically become a member of the society. So we have 3 meetings a year, which are really great. We do a meeting in October, one in February, and one in April. And we have those meetings down at the Atlanta History Center. And we always have a speaker. And they're really great meetings, but we also, if that's too far for you to go, we also send out a newsletter, and it's a really good newsletter. Our newsletter editor does a great job. It's very informative, and there's 3 of those that come out a year too. So there's a lot of other benefits to joining the society other than coming on the tour, but the tour is really great. So I would encourage all of y'all to come. Do I have questions? Can I answer burning hydrangea questions? Yes, sir, back in there.
Do you know which flavor of hydrangea do the deer like the best?
Oh, I know exactly which flavors they like the best. They like the oak leaves, they like the paniculatas, and they like the arborescens types. So the only ones that they are not so fond of, at least in my experience, are the macrophyllus, the blue ones. Yeah. But I've heard other people say they'll eat those too. It just depends on how hungry they are. I will tell you that I have discovered a new product though. I was told about this from a guy who owns a nursery in Raleigh, Tony Avent from Plant Delights, told us about this stuff called Trico Pro. and it is made with sheep fat, and it is a spray, and he says in Raleigh it lasts for 6 months. So I have tried it, and I have noticed the deer were mealing on my paniculatas in my front garden, and after I sprayed it, I'm seeing all kinds of new growth that's come out, and they haven't touched it since. Huh?
How do you spell that?
Trico, Trico, Pro. And I have no idea where you can get it. I got it from a landscaper, so I don't know how widely available it is, but almost anything is available on the internet. So look into it. And it does not smell quite as bad as some of the other ones it's for sure not as bad as bobcat pee. I mean, that's the worst. But it does kind of smell like a McDonald's. I guess like the sheep fat, it kind of has like a burger smell. But so far it's working. And it's supposed to work on rabbits too. So, yes.
Fertilizer.
Fertilizer?
What do we need to use for that?
Well, I'm not a big believer of fertilizer. If you are going to fertilize, I mean, to each his own, but I would make sure you're doing it before like March 5th. That's about the time to, yes. And I would I would also be skimpy with it. Don't overdo it. It is way better to under fertilize than over fertilize. If you put too much out, they can't use it and you'll burn your plants. Yes?
To change the color of the hydrangea,
Oh, that's a good question.
do you have to buy the product at the store, or are there any home items like vinegar, salt, whatever?
I would not use vinegar or salt.
I didn't mean that in particular, but just a home item.
So tell me a little bit about what color we're trying to change them to.
To blue, dark blue.
Oh, to dark blue. Well, I would say maybe first do a soil test and see what your soil pH is, because if it's normally pretty acid, and usually blue's not a problem for us, but maybe it's a little alkaline, and you might need to add like I would use something like shredded pine bark, like Nature's Helper, will help acidify the soil a little bit. None of these are going to be fast fixes, but they do work over time, because what you'll need to do in order to not have to put chemicals on every year to keep it that certain pH is that you'll really need to kind of work on the soil itself, and you would do that by adding some organic material like shredded pine bark, like multiple layers of pine straw that are kind of worked into the soil. Yeah. If you use lime, you would want to put the lime down in late fall, winter, not in the spring, and you can do that, and that actually does work pretty well to make them pinker, but it's one of those things where you would have to do it every year. Most of the time when I see really good pink hydrangeas in people's gardens, it's because they are planted near concrete, like near a walkway, someplace where or in a concrete pot. Yeah. So that's another trick, if you want a pink hydrangea, maybe in a container. Yeah. Yes? Oh, ruby slippers. Where have I seen ruby slippers? Well, I have seen it in Pikes and in garden centers before, but my other suggestion is if there's a very particular hydrangea that you can't find anywhere, Hydrangeas Plus Nursery is an online nursery, and they do a great job shipping. They're out on the West Coast, but their hydrangeas are very high quality, and they do a great job with shipping. And I know they carry that one, but I would try to find it locally first.
What's the other
Hydrangeas plus. Yep. Yes? Oh, yes. That's a fungal disease. It's called Cercospora, and it comes from water from overhead watering, which, you know, when we get rain, that's overhead watering. So it's more prevalent when we have a lot of rain. You can spray fungicide on it. I wouldn't, but you can. One thing that you can do to help kind of mitigate some of it is to, in the fall when the leaves come off, don't leave them under there. Scoop up all the leaves and throw them away, because those leaves harbor the fungus and it will splash back up on the plants, and it's kind of like a vicious cycle. But it comes from overhead watering. Some plants are more resistant to it, and I would definitely look for some of the newer ones, like Summer Crush is super resistant to Cercospora. Bloomstruck is also super resistant to it. It's normally a bigger problem on some of the older cultivars. And it's interestingly not a problem at all on paniculatas. You don't really see it on paniculatas, and you don't really see it on arborescens. So maybe think about, you know, if it's really unsightly and you're having a big issue with it, maybe think about changing out your hydrangeas for something a little more disease resistant.
Will it kill the plant?
It does not kill the plant. Nope. It's just ugly. Yep. And you know, if it's just on a few leaves, go ahead and pick those off. Go ahead and pull them off and throw them away, so you don't spread it. But
Can I ask you?
yeah.
My daughter's plant is some of the leaves are actually curling.
Uh-huh.
What would cause that?
Sometimes that is due to over-fertilization, too much fertilizer, or even if somebody hasn't spread fertilizer on their plants, a lot of times if it's near their grass and the grass gets heavily fertilized. Sometimes that's herbicide damage too, from you know, Roundup or something, some kind of weed killer being sprayed. Usually that leaf curling is from that. It can also happen if we have a prolonged dry period followed by a lot of rain very suddenly. Sometimes that can cause weird leaf distortions. It's almost like the plants go into kind of hyperdrive with the growth, and the structure of the leaf can't keep up with all the cell regeneration. So it could be any of those. I would pull those off, though. I would pull them off. Other questions? Nope. Well, thank you so much. Y'all have been a lovely group. Thank you for having me. I hope you could hear me.
I think everyone can hear. Thank you, Jennifer,
Yeah.
so much for coming.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend that you take a look at the American Hydrangea Society online. As Jennifer said, the tour is Saturday, June the 14th.
June 14th.
I've been
Yep.
several times. It's awesome. Get your friends and go for the day. We're going to go ahead and move along to door prizes. Remember, you do have to call ahead and register to be eligible for door prizes.